left, and they're going to tell us a little bit about Pope Francis's encyclical. And I'm happy to present Kelly Molzen and Patricia Kenny. Which one would you like to go first? Okay, here's Pat Kenny. These two are people that are trying to do something, and I think we should recognize them for that too.
Hi, my name is Pat Kenny, and I am a retired teacher. I taught in the New York City public school system. I was a reading teacher. So I am not a scientist either, but I can understand the basic structures of what leads to climate change. I became interested in this, especially at the time of the climate march in 2014 in New York. My husband, Bill, who's sitting right over there, said, "This is really important. I really think that we should do this." So we went to the march. After that, I tried to keep up with things. After the election, I decided that this was the area where I really wanted to learn more, and I hope do more. So I joined the Catholic Climate Covenant, which has webinars and all kinds of resources to help me educate myself better. Also, we have 2 grandchildren, and we both think whatever happens, we could probably weather it out, but we think about our world in which our 2 grandchildren are going to live, and we're very concerned about that. So Aileen got in touch with me, and she asked me to talk about Laudato Si. First thing is, where does the title of the encyclical come from? Laudate comes from Laudato Si mi Signore, praise be to you, my Lord, which is the first line of the Canticle of St. Francis. St. Francis is, I don't think you have to be Catholic to know about St. Francis and to know about his interest in ecology. He was very concerned about all creatures. He was very concerned about the poor and the outcast and all creation, and he is the patron saint of ecology. In the encyclical, Pope Francis insists that the earth is our common home. God is the creator, and we must honor his creation. He addresses the encyclical to all of humanity, not just to Christians. But to Christians, he points out that care for creation is rooted in the Bible, and he cites many of the biblical texts. And he defines integral ecology this way: the inseparable bond between concern for nature, justice for the poor, commitment to society, and inner peace. He asks what's happening to our common home. And the answer that he gives is that it's beginning to look more and more like an immense pile of filth. This is because we've become a throwaway culture. Consumerism, the desire to have more and more things, is at the heart of the problem. The technological developments of the past 200 years have brought many wonderful things, medical advancements and so on. But he believes that these advancements have not always been well thought out regarding ecology and the common good. He looks to nature as an example of the way it should be. Plants synthesize nutrients which feed herbivores. These in turn become food for carnivores, which produce significant quantities of organic waste, which give rise to new generations of plants. However, industrial systems have not developed this kind of circular model for absorbing and reusing waste and byproducts. Hence, again, we have the throwaway culture. One of the most serious, of course, of the environmental problems. Probably the most serious is climate change, which is why we're here today. And he regards the climate as a common good. And he states that there is a solid scientific consensus that the global warming of recent decades is due to increased concentrations of greenhouse gases, as we've mentioned here. The problem is caused by use of fossil fuels, which are at the heart of the worldwide energy system. I am just going to interrupt for a minute and say I just found the presentation from the high school students at the beginning of this session amazing. And I kept thinking as I listened to you about so many of the things that I had read about in the encyclical, the way that you were working the e-waste to use the heat of your body to generate electricity, and so many other things that you discussed. It was truly amazing and so much in line with what I read in the encyclical. Another factor is deforestation and the loss of tropical forests, which would help to mitigate climate change by absorbing electricity. Pope Francis has a special concern for the poor, which are harmed in so many ways by climate change, as well as other forms of environmental degradation. Those in developing countries, and so many of the people who presented ahead of me have referred to this, those in developing countries are likely to bear the brunt of climate change through droughts and rising sea levels. And these countries have limited resources for dealing with the problem. Melting polar ice caps result in rising sea levels, and a quarter of the Earth's population lives on or near coasts. Poor people along the coast who do subsistence farming or fishing are greatly harmed. When their livelihoods disappear, they are forced to leave their homes. Whether or not they live by coast, many poor people in agriculture, fishing, and farming are adversely affected when the climate changes. When animals and plants cannot adapt to changes, and we're talking about adapting to changes, already in this session, when the animals and the plants cannot adapt to the changes, the poor must leave these areas. But they have no resources to do so, really, and they become climate migrants. And the Pope points out that there is no international recognition of the group of people who are climate migrants. They're not recognized by any official organizations. Water is another issue, again, another issue that we have heard about earlier. Access to safe drinking water is a common good. And poor people who live in areas of water pollution cannot afford bottled water. Droughts and lack of access to safe water also impede agriculture. The health effects of climate change and environmental degradation are serious for everyone, but especially for the poor, who again do not have resources for dealing with these problems. Poor air quality can lead to respiratory problems, including asthma. Unclean water can lead to dysentery, cholera, high rates of infant mortality, as well as other problems. Waste products from farming, industry, and mining pour into the rivers and streams, especially in countries with poor regulations and control. What are the causes of this problem according to the encyclical? Pope Francis believes that consumerism is a major factor in environmental decline, particularly overconsumption by rich countries. People want more and more things, and a minority of the planet believe that they consume as they like, but the planet cannot absorb their waste. He, among the solutions that he offers, there need to be policies to reduce carbon emissions. And this is often done on the national level, but individual nations have a weak hand here. And that's because of the politics. Politics in many cases is controlled by finance and corporations, which are transnational. Therefore, international organizations have to get involved. Technical solutions may still apply and can be helpful, but he believes that the market alone is not going to solve the problem. We all have to reduce consumption. He believes that we need to have lifestyle changes and a growth of spirituality. All of us must realize that the earth is a shared inheritance. All creatures are interdependent and must be respected. Also, there must be encounter and communication between the rich and the poor. He also addressed those, I found this one very interesting because I think sometimes we all feel like this. The Pope addressed those who want to do something but who believe they cannot do very much. And he said, do what you can. You can pick the one thing, no matter how small you think it is. Do what you can, because the small act can just blossom out and reach out to others and give example to others and do quite a bit of good. I'd like to close with a few of the things that, a few words, a few key ideas that just stood out as I read the encyclical. Interconnected, interrelated. How many times have we heard this about the creatures who are interconnected and interrelated? All peoples on earth are, and we have to keep that in mind. He stresses the dignity of the human person and how much that has to be respected. He stresses the importance of the common good over individualism, and that care for creation is more important than consumerism or the profit motive. I began when I introduced myself, I spoke about our grandchildren. The encyclical calls for intergenerational responsibility. We are called to care for the earth for those who come after us. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Kelly?
Thank you, Aline and Pat, for opening us up. For short people. So I wanted to open up, this is a copy of Pope Francis' encyclical Laudato Si, and this copy especially has the first half of the book is about commentary from Sean McDonough, who is an Irish Columban priest who helped to write the encyclical. So he was visiting New York City last year and doing some tours of talking. And the good part about this is he goes into detail on the different topics of climate change, biodiversity, water, oceans, sustainable food, and a responsibility for protecting the environment. But it's not a book primarily about climate change. It's a book about spirituality. So Laudato Si is primarily about spirituality. Sorry, I forgot to give you a little introduction. I work in the Bronx I'm a dietitian. I work in nutrition and public health and food systems. And I also am a member of the Metro New York Catholic Climate Movement and the Franciscan Action Network. And I'm interested in talking especially about integral ecology, which you heard a little bit about from Pat. So integral ecology is where we're looking at the intersection between nature, the environment, and humans. So it's a perspective about the environment that discusses the intersection and interconnectedness between the human and social dimensions with the environment. So I think this is a very good opportunity to talk about what our individual roles could be beyond, advocating for clean energy, reduction in fossil fuels. Another intersection between the environment and humans is the food that we eat. And the current industrial food system is a really big contributor to climate change. Livestock is a big contributor. It contributes about 18% of greenhouse gas emissions. And additionally, processing, packaging, transportation, refrigeration accounts for another 15 to 20% of greenhouse gas emissions. So in total, our industrial food system accounts for about half of all greenhouse gas emissions. There's also the additional factors of deforestation, cutting down trees and forests in order to make more land for raising cattle. And there's also, within the industrial food system, there's a lot of pesticides and fertilizers that are used that degrade the soil and lead to more erosion and contamination of our water supplies. So our current food system is contributing to climate change, and it also it impacts on our food and water security. Well, the threat of climate change also impacts our food and water security, so it kind of goes hand in hand. Our U.S. agriculture system consumes about 80% of water, and additionally, with more extreme weather events, sea level rise, glaciers melting, it impacts our ability to have the water that we need to grow crops that we need in order to eat. So what can we do in terms of our lifestyle change to help to mitigate climate change in terms of the food that we eat? A more plant-based diet, actually, such as a Mediterranean diet, has less of an impact on the environment, and also regenerative agriculture. So growing more foods organically can help to reduce carbon in the atmosphere. The Rodale Institute, which does a lot of research on organic farming in Pennsylvania, they have found that a 2% increase in carbon content of the plant soils could offset 100% of greenhouse gas emissions in the atmosphere. So there's a huge potential of organic regenerative agriculture to mitigate and reduce climate change. And there's some examples of what people are doing in order to grow more food organically and have a more plant-based diet. There's Dominican sisters in upstate New York who run a farm. It's called Harmony Farm, and it's biodynamic. So it goes by the system of by the moon and the moon's patterns, and how that tells us what are the patterns that we need in order to grow food. And they sell farm shares. They sell the CSA to the churches in Manhattan. So it's a way of getting the food directly from the farms into churches, and people are able to subsidize the cost of some of the farm shares, and some of the food goes into the food pantries and the soup kitchens. So it's a really great way of getting fresh fruits and vegetables directly into the parishes, and also help to improve the way that we're growing food. And there's also, institutionally, we can change our procurement practices. So the Food Chain Workers Alliance they're working on improving expanding the good food purchasing policy, which they've implemented in Los Angeles, and through the Center for Good Food Purchasing, they're really working to try and shift procurement within large institutions, and make our food system based on 5 values of local economies, environmental sustainability, valued workforce, animal welfare, and nutrition. So we're looking to change procurement within large institutions, such as the entirety of food served in New York City schools, and see how that can be food that's grown more sustainably and in line with the practices that we want to be promoting. And in order to do this, we need to take into consideration our own eating habits. It's something that we need to think about as Pope Francis talks about, and St. Francis, who he based the canticle on, is about our ongoing conversion. It's about the fact that we need to take our own personal decisions into consideration. So, thinking about what is it that we need to change in our own diet and our own lifestyle in order to help to promote a cleaner environment. So I do a lot of work in the Bronx. That's what I do through Bronx Health Reach, and we're trying to promote, getting more nutrition education into schools, trying to get kids to eat more fruits and vegetables, learn about plant-based diets. It's not just about, having meat all the time. Teaching them about something we've developed called the Bronx salad, and it's promoting cultural diversity and fruits and vegetables. And seeing how people can even learn to grow the food and getting connected with the earth, especially from a young age. So we're trying to shift what people are eating and try to promote cultural food heritage while also promoting, healthy, sustainable, plant-based foods. So just want to close and say that within the global Catholic climate movement, which came together around the time of the last People's Climate March, it's promoting 3 dimensions of eco-conversion, which really reflect the elements of Laudato Si. It's about our personal and spiritual conversion, our lifestyle change, and mobilization and advocacy. So these 3 all go hand in hand, and in order to mobilize more people towards advocacy and changing in policy, we need to be practicing that lifestyle change, and that needs to be grounded in our own responsibility, our own personal commitment to our spirituality and spiritual development. So, thank you.